Hello and welcome to episode 70 of Can We Still Be Friends, a podcast that tests the limits of the friendship between two people who mistake movie taste for personal morality. I'm Nate Goss, here with Ryan Evling. And joining us for the first time in a long time is Evan Mather, who is here to talk to us about Children of Men, Alfonso Cuaron's vision of a dystopian near future from 2006. We've all seen and loved Cuaron's latest film, Roma, which is up for several Oscars this year. It made us want to go back and rewatch some of his earlier movies. We hadn't seen Children of Men in a long time, so we invited Evan in, seeing as he ranks Children of Men among his very favorite movies.
Children of Men connected with critics pretty much right away, but didn't catch on with audiences, earning nearly $70 million worldwide on a $76 million budget. Despite some mishandling by the studio, Children of Men earned 3 Oscar nominations, including one for Cuaron's adapted screenplay. It really cemented Cuaron's pedigree as an inventive and groundbreaking filmmaker. As time has gone on, it's sort of quietly gained more and more respect, as its themes have proven to be more immediate and hauntingly relevant with each passing year.
But is it really worth watching another dire warning about our decaying Earth?
Or should we be spending our last days on Earth watching something a little cheerier? Keep listening.
Day 1000 of the Siege of Seattle.
The Muslim community demands an end to the army's occupation of mosques.
The Homeland Security Bill is ratified. After 8 years, British borders will remain closed. The deportation of illegal immigrants will continue. Good morning. Our lead story.
The world was stunned today by the death of Diego Ricardo, the youngest person on the planet. Baby Diego was stabbed outside a bar in Buenos Aires after refusing to sign an autograph.
Witnesses at the scene say that Diego spat in the face of a fan who asked for an autograph. He was killed in the ensuing brawl. The fan was later beaten to death by the angry crowd.
So that's from the opening scene, just the very first couple seconds of the movie, Children of Men, that we're talking about today.
Yeah, we didn't feel like looking through the whole movie and finding a clip, so we just said, let the beginning go.
Luckily, it started with dialogue that was explaining a lot. Yeah. Year 2027, and in this society, the youngest human on Earth has died. So they're really laying out there this idea that humanity has lost the ability to reproduce.
Yeah, infertility is rampant.
And everybody's kind of shaken, and that's where the movie starts.
and then goes
a little darker from there, yeah.
And to help us discuss that darkness and despair is our good friend, Evan Mather, who hasn't been on here for a very long time.
Long time.
Was it Die Hard? Was that the last one?
Die Hard was the last time.
Yeah. Well, welcome back.
Yeah,
thanks.
Good to have you.
And the reason we have you back is because knowing that this is actually one of your all-time favorite movies.
Yeah, it's up there.
We figured why not bring that perspective in?
Yeah.
Sure.
Also, I just feel like this movie, as I hear other people talk about it, as I read more about it in the years since it came out, I think us having watched it once and then once again probably isn't doing the movie justice.
Right.
So to bring somebody in who's thought more about it in the last 12 years than maybe you or I have is probably a good choice.
Yeah.
13 years now.
And the other reason we're doing this movie to begin with is our first idea was just because of Roma.
Right.
And Alfonso Cuaron is kind of having a good year, last year, I guess, technically, but spilling into this year with the awards
Oscars
and nominations and whatnot. And I absolutely loved Roma.
Mm-hmm.
I think you did too, right, Ryan?
I did. I just said, mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
I wasn't saying, yes, you loved it. I love it too.
Okay.
Evan,
I also
you
really,
also
really
loved it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Roma.
Let the record show.
There it is.
All three
tallied.
of us.
Good. One thing that I noticed watching Roma, there were scenes in it, especially in the second half, where I was like, this is very Children of Men. And I haven't seen Children of Men since it came out originally. So we were both kind of like, let's rewatch it.
But still such a very different feeling movie.
Yeah, super different.
It's interesting to see the similarities that you can call a movie Fellini-esque and Children of Men-ish.
Is the overlap of that Venn diagram.
That's it. That's it. But that it works so beautifully.
Yes, absolutely. Maybe we should let's do our thing. Let's start with maybe first viewings.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start since we do it in every other episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's just keep that ball rolling.
Episode 70, we're not going to change 70,
it up.
Yeah. I saw it in the theater. I don't remember how soon after its release I saw it.
Christmas Day.
Christmas Day.
That's the day it came out.
I don't think it was here.
We'll open
Really?
presents after. Oh, was it a limited release?
I think it was like open in New York
wider.
and LA
Okay.
Christmas Day.
So I do remember I showed up a little late, and I didn't see the scene we just played.
Really?
Yeah.
like the whole scene.
Well,
through
I
the
saw
long take?
we actually got there as the coffee shop exploded. So
So to you didn't know that was a
Wow.
long
to a
take.
great start.
You didn't
No,
know
I
that-
didn't. I didn't.
You're like, that's a
didn't.
very normal movie
Yeah.
explosion.
So
And
Also,
far-
so much
about that.
exposition happens.
I
there.
know. I mean, I had known about it. Like I had read like about that, but yeah, it really. I mean, I feel really bad saying that because it's one of the great tone-setting scenes in movies. But yeah, and I actually feel like I remember I really liked it. I was way more enthralled with the filmmaking of it than I was engaging with the story at all. I mean, obviously, I was engaged with the story, but through most of it, I was just sort of like, I can't believe they're doing this in one take, and like I was just astounded by what he was doing technically, and I liked it. I didn't know what to think about it though, and honestly, in 2006, I was pretty up in the air politically. I mean, we don't need to get so far into it now, but I was cleansing myself of conservatism at that point, but I still had vestiges of it. And I think there was honestly part of me that was sort of like, this movie's a little alarmist. But I mean, it's not. But
You're adorable.
I think I wasn't. It's not like it affected anything other than I just wasn't ready to engage with it on that level. Luckily, there was a lot to engage with technically, so it's always been one that I've like admired. But then in recent years, as people have talked about it, as it's kind of been canonized to a degree, then like I need to re-see this.
You know, and I just wanted to ask you though, because you did see this in the theater. I did not. But what was it that even initially attracted you to it? Do you remember?
Oh, I had seen Y Tu Mamá También, and I had seen.
So it was Cuarón. You think it?
Yeah. I knew about Alfonso Cuaron.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can go. It's very uneventful. I didn't see it in the theater. I just saw it when it came out on DVD. At the time, I worked at the library in the AV department with Evan. I remember you actually saying that you really loved the movie, and that I needed to see it. And being the terrible friend I am, when another friend says you have to see this movie, I immediately put it near the bottom of the list.
That's fair.
Nobody tells Nate what to do.
I watched it because it was one that a lot of people were talking about, but I didn't have a whole lot of a connection to it. I did eventually see Y Tu Mamá También, but not before I saw Children of Men. I did not see Prisoner of Azkaban.
Very different movie.
Of course, yeah, but I'm just saying there was no Cuarón connection for me. Yeah. I do remember hearing before I watched it that it had some impressive filmmaking in it. And so that, again, like you, Ryan, that's why I was going into it. And I really liked it. But I'm kind of with you, Ryan, where I think I was more just appreciating it on that technical level. And I did get into the story, and I could recognize there was some things happening, some kind of more symbolic things happening, some deeper themes going on than it just being sort of a dystopian wasteland movie. And then I didn't really ever go back to it.
Right.
But I remember just over time, over these past few years, just hearing more and more people talk about it and feeling like I really needed to go back and watch it. And Letterboxd, Ryan, do you remember what your Letterboxd rating was?
I rated it 4 stars.
Yeah, that's what my rating was 4 stars as well on Letterboxd. So Evan, why don't you talk about your first time watching Children of Men?
Mine starts pretty similarly to Ryan's, except I was there promptly in my seat at the start of the film.
Well,
I remember my attraction was just, it was one of the first years that I'd really been like trying to see newer, important movies, I guess, in the theater, and paying attention to like what are the really well reviewed. And I'm pretty sure it was on the top of like AV Club's list for the year.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
And I was like, how have I not heard of this movie? It sounds amazing. Went to it, sat, saw the movie. There's only one other time I can remember being physically unable to stand up from my seat right when the movie was over, and that was when I saw like Saving Private Ryan at 14.
Yeah.
And this one was both like a visceral shooken and an emotional, like just shooken And I sat there through like almost the whole credits, not reading the credits, just like sitting there getting myself together.
Yeah.
So, actually, speaking of Letterboxd, when I was logging it for this time, I realized I have not seen this movie since I started logging on Letterboxd. So it's been a 6-ish years. But
Interesting.
before that, I'd seen it like, maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
3, 4.
Yeah. So it's been a while.
It's been a bit, yeah, it has been a while.
But it has stayed with you enough over that amount of time that it's still
it's always
top
had like
5
a
for you.
set spot in that.
And how on rewatching it over the course of the years, like what were the circumstances?
Well, it's such a textured movie in its set design and world building.
Oh yeah.
So you get to sort of like really literally every time I see it, there's more that I see. Like this time, there's that scene where Key sort of tells Theo her secret in the barn.
Yeah.
And she's talking about the cows and how they have 8 udders, but the machines only fit 4. Cows only have 4 udders. Like, what they do to the cows?
Yeah,
what?
That's
what
true.
that has never clicked with me until
That's
like this
true.
like 5th, 6th time seeing this movie. Like,
I remember thinking that
what's
was weird,
happened
and
to the
I was
cows?
like, I guess I don't know anything
And
about
then it makes
cows.
more sense when there's the field of burning
Sure,
cattle beforehand.
yeah.
Like, something's up with the cows.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's one of the things I love about the movie is it does not hold your hand.
No,
Aside from
no,
that
no.
opening, news bit, which that's what the news does, is it holds your hand in what's going on.
Right.
It doesn't for everything else. You sort of need to pay attention and need to notice those things because partially it doesn't matter.
Right.
Partially
Right.
it's just texture.
Yeah.
But it's all there.
Well, that was even something that Emmanuel Lubetsky, or Chivo, as Cuarón likes to call him, said to him, I like every single shot should say something. And that was their decision early on, was that every single shot was going to have some kind of subtext or something that was going to add to the actual world or the theme or point to something. Or there's just shots littered with clues all over this movie.
Yeah. So so you hadn't Letterboxd rated it?
I hadn't. Yeah. I had. I had Letterboxd rated it without logging it. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha,
like sometimes you say like
logging. I watched it.
Yeah.
Rewatched it.
It was just rated.
And that rating was?
It was 5.
Mm.
It was 5 stars.
5 stars.
I thought you were like really hard on movies where like even your
I have
favorite movie.
3 5-star movies. That's it.
4.5.
No more.
Okay. So on the rewatch, does it move for you at all, Nate?
For me, for now, I'm going to keep it at 4. Still
Wow.
really like this movie, but I am very open to this by the end of the conversation bumping this up to a 5. I don't think it would drop, but I would keep it at a 4 for sure.
I don't know what to do if it drops for you.
Yeah.
We end the podcast.
Can you
70
still be
episodes.
friends?
This is the answer to the question. Nope.
There we go.
Guess not.
It was yes until.
Where are you?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you're at
episode
a 5?
71. It's just guess not. Yeah, I actually moved it up to a 5.
Okay. I'm almost there. And it's hard to even figure out what exactly what I need. There's a lot of different ways in which I come up with that weird rating.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, then I feel weird saying like, what didn't we like about it? But let's get the technical stuff out of the way, maybe. All right. It is as stunning technically today as it was the first time I saw it, I think.
I mean, the long takes, they let you see more of that texture, but they're not letting you look away. They're keeping you trapped there. And I think in the whole filmmaking, even more what I noticed the last couple times I saw it than just the long takes is the distance that the camera keeps you at. There's no close-ups.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's no long shots.
Right.
Or very few. It's all medium human point of view. Like if you are a person in that room, this is what it looks like to you.
Right.
And we're never getting closer and we're never getting further. And then when those long takes do come up, you can't look away. You're stuck in this room.
But at the same time, sometimes during the long take, the camera looks away, but you're almost wishing they hadn't, because it's looking at, like on the bus, when you see Miriam being taken away, or you see what's happening to immigrants, you're kind of like, can we just look back at Key and Theo for a little bit? But no, we've got to watch this. And there are those really just striking times where the camera doesn't follow the action that we were just following.
It's a literal glimpse. It's like you're the point of view of the camera. You are that point of view. Sometimes that point of view is shared with Theo. Sometimes it's not, but you are one point of view. And that's kind of the point of the long take, right? I mean, it's just supposed to make you feel like you're in real time. This thing's happening and unfolding as you are watching it. I read a lot of Cuaron interviews preparing for this, and I'm sorry if I can't always cite exactly where I got it from beforehand.
At some point, Cuaron said.
But at some point, Cuaron
he has been quoted saying.
He's always, he uses long takes in pretty much all of his films,
Right.
I'm pretty sure. I never saw Prisoner of Azkaban, but he gets asked a lot why he uses the long takes, and his answer, at least a few times, has been that it honors the moment, that it registers a moment of truthfulness. And I was trying to figure out, why is it that we've seen a lot of movies that have violence, that have intense scenes, but none of them feel as just absolutely unrelenting to me as some of these. And it's a long take. And usually the way you build intensity is through a lot of cuts. And he's doing it the opposite way. And maybe it's not looking where you want it to look, like you were saying, or maybe it's looking to something very quickly and then moving away, because of you being in that moment and not getting that cut, which is really kind of a subconscious cue that you're in a movie.
Right.
I actually feel like, because I was trying to pay attention to my body as I was watching these scenes, I think your body starts to get tricked when you're watching this, and you start feeling like you're in kind of a fight or flight kind of thing. I guess unrelenting is the way it feels. Like it's not going to give you the easy way out of a nice cut that gives you a different perspective. Your perspective is so narrow.
I mean, it really plays on our on the vocabulary of film and our training as viewers to know editing cues that violence is coming, or the editing cues that tell us how we should feel about that violence. And it's very different watching somebody who is you've seen them enter the scene, you've seen them like talk, they don't know the violence is coming either, and then all of a sudden get gunned down. And you don't get the editing cue of, you can take a breath here, you can look away here, but you watched that person come in, interact with you, the viewer, with Theo, with Key, whatever, and then get gunned down, and now you have to see their body lay there. As viewers, we don't know what to do.
Yeah. I even think of the car scene when Julianne Moore gets shot. It takes a moment because the camera moves sort of away, and you have to, just like you would in real life, you have to be like, did this just happen? Did what I just see actually happen? And then you have to go back to see her bleeding out and realize, oh yeah, it did. That happened.
Jesus! All done! Cover Kate! Get down!
Fuck!
Having it be those long takes, and just the way that they're choreographed, it's very hard to think of another movie where you really do feel like you're there. Like, I'm sure a lot of war
Saving
movies
Private Ryan
do that.
kind of it feels like it used some of that Saving Private Ryan stuff, but to much different effect. Saving Private Ryan was, to me, that opening beach scene was more about the chaos of it and the fear that is. And there's something different about Children of Men. It's not just chaos and fear. I don't know what it is. Do you guys have any?
Well, I think the difference in there is in the writing. I think Saving Private Ryan, it's a good movie.
It is.
I don't think it's great. I think it does.
It's no Shakespeare in Love, as the Oscars proved.
It does hand you a satisfying narrative conclusion.
Yeah.
At least to the violence. It feels chaotic, but narratively it's not.
Yeah, but I think that the difference between, say, the beach scene in particular at Saving Private Ryan, which is also very intense and violent,
and effective filmmaking,
is again, it's not so much about you being put in the place of one person's experience of that. You're being sort of shown a bunch of glimpses, a bunch of cuts of like, here's it from this angle. And I mean, it does let it go a decent amount of time. Those aren't like the fastest cuts ever, but like, you're going to see it from this angle for a little bit. Then you're going to switch over to this angle for a little bit. And Children of Men doesn't give you that advantage. That is that's a perspective that you don't get in the very intense scenes of Children of Men.
It's almost, and from the way that shots are staged, from the way it uses the long takes, we have the glimpse of a human, where almost all other films give us a bit of God.
Yeah.
You know, you're God. You get to see a close up of what you need to see. You get to see what you need to see over here. In this, You're just a person.
And it's a risky thing because really, if Cuarón cared that much about you knowing exactly what's happening, if that was his priority, is that I want you to know exactly what's happening in this action scene, he probably would have pulled back and given you a bird's eye view. But the more important thing for him is for you maybe to not know exactly what's happening in this action scene and to piece it together maybe later, just like an actual victim of trauma would have to do that.
And that's the whole movie. The whole movie is we're not going to give you all the pieces that you need explained in all the ways that you need. The clips on the news, something happened, it gives you those pieces, but it's not putting them together in a handy.
And that was very true of Roma too.
Yeah.
I think. I'm going to bring another Cuarón quote in here because I think it's exactly what you're saying, Evan, about movies in general. He said, cinema has become now a medium. Well, a lot of mainstream and even indie sometimes. It's become now what I call a medium for lazy readers. It's illustrated stories. You can close your eyes and you can follow the movie. What's the point of seeing the movie? Cinema is a hostage of narrative, and I'm very good at narrative as a hostage of cinema. His whole point in the context of that was about how you really do have to kind of piece a lot of the movie together yourself. And some stuff's only going to maybe be said once. And if you didn't catch it, well, you'll sort of get it later, but you might still have some questions. Let the movie and the cinema speak for itself, that this isn't just an illustrated story.
I remember one of the times I watched this was showing it to my parents, being like, this is my favorite movie of last year, one of my favorite movies. Let's watch it together. They thought it was okay. They liked moments of it, but their big question was, how did this happen? What led the world to this? Mm-hmm. And I feel like the point of both the way those action scenes are shot, what's going on everywhere else, how did this all happen? It doesn't matter. We're here.
I mean, there's a reason that it doesn't open with a long take battle scene, because he kind of had to train us as viewers to get to that point, to like immerse us not just in the world of England in 2027, but the world that the movie is creating in your living room or in that theater, that it's creating an alternate world there too, where like, this is how movies tell stories. And if as I'm thinking about the Saving Private Ryan scene, as chaotic as it is, it's an extremely orienting scene. He gives us the point of view of the German gunners so that we can even see where the people are running. So we know when somebody's hiding, we know where that is. And like, we can tell, oh, they're pretty close to being safe. Or, there's a lot of reassuring of the viewer that goes on there. And there is no reassurance in any capacity, emotionally, spatially, whatever, in the battle scene for Children of Men.
And frankly, how the Battle of Normandy goes.
True. And the fact that it's historic versus...
and in Children of Men, and there was someone at my work who did not like this movie. They thought that it was extremely violent, and they thought it was just too depressing and too intense. Mm-hmm. And what I find kind of interesting is I think that if you actually just like listed out the violence, it's probably not that violent than a lot of movies we see. It's just how it's portrayed. Yeah, it's very intense to take it. It's not as gory. But as far as like the fact of it just being that heavy of a movie, I do kind of wonder. You get so invested in the intense moments of this that it almost feels like it should be like a historical pick. You know what I mean? Like if you're watching a war movie, you feel like I'm watching this, but I'm watching it because I'm kind of seeing what actually happened and trying to figure out like, what was it like to be there?
You owe it to history.
You owe it to
exactly.
To the people. That's what I'm getting at. And I kind of wonder like, what does it mean to have a movie that is entirely fictional, but has that same level
entirely.
You know what I'm getting at.
Yes. Yeah.
Of course it's got a lot to say about today.
Right. But these aren't real people that this really happened.
Right. Is what I'm saying.
No, yeah, there's absolutely
and my grandpa on the beach of Normandy.
Right. But there's a similar feeling of emotional investment and heaviness.
That's what I mean. And so I can see why someone could kind of be uncomfortable with that. Mm-hmm. Like I don't feel like I should be this invested in something that's entirely made up. Right. You know what I mean?
And maybe be mad at the movie for making
exactly.
it.
I don't have this like tallied down. I don't know if this all mathematically works out, but I think all of the long takes are tied, except for one, to violence, to the worst violence.
Yes.
Except for the birth scene.
The birth scene is the
So it's life and death. And I think the reason for the long takes, the real reason, are to both surprise you with the violence I would say the first two, and even the last one, come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You sort of start, and whoa, surprise, kaboom.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other reason it does it is to trap you there, like we've sort of talked about.
Yeah.
And both of those, I think, are what can be upsetting. I can understand that being the upsetting part. And I think it's what's most affecting on us, at least the way the violence affected us, was through the filmmaking of it and the long takes.
I mean, technically speaking about this movie, yes, the long takes are...
they're pretty swell.
Are amazing. But the long takes don't work without the production design. Without that big of a world for the camera to be able to move through. I can't even fathom how they did it. Because I was watching some of the featurettes too, and they were explaining how they did it. I still don't believe it. Because it's the way they did it was just they worked crazy hard at doing it.
And
those walls with people...
Is that the secret to doing things?
Working hard.
That can't be it.
I don't think that sounds right either. But that's what they said.
Maybe it worked for Children of Men. Can't work for everything.
Lightning in a bottle. But like even walls where like people are posting pictures of possible survivors, you know, they like hand wrote like all these things and took different sorts of pictures and different filters and different, like it's just, and some of them have been there longer, so they're aged more. It's just every inch of that world was created and designed, and it is unbelievably cohesive and perfect.
I'm trying to think what is a speculative fiction movie aside from Children of Men that feels as fully realized and lived in years and years later, like gets closer. Like when you saw Children of Men, I think when all of us saw Children of Men in 2006 or whenever we saw it, we were like, this is shockingly close.
Yeah.
But it's still like
shockingly close.
Turned up to 11.
Yeah.
Turned up to 11, and now we're like, we're at 10.5 right now.
No, absolutely.
And I don't think there's another movie that was maybe as prescient.
You're probably right.
Like Blade Runner feels accurate for
an 80s
1982.
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh no, we've clearly veered off on a different path.
Nowhere near what the world looks like.
We are closer right now.
Yes.
To 2027 than we are to 2006.
Yeah.
So far, we're on track.
Yeah. I mean, my first note was maybe like, I don't know, 3 minutes in, and I wrote, it is insane how pertinent this movie is.
And we didn't even need infertility.
On every level. Right.
That's really the cause of a lot of this in there.
Right, is that they stopped caring.
Right.
We're like, nah,
we just don't care.
See,
we don't
you
have
think
a
that
reason
you need to have the babies to care about the future. Guess what?
No, you don't.
You still not care about the future with
just
babies.
Need a lot of selfish people.
All right. Well, okay. I feel like we kind of had to go there, though, right? I mean,
we absolutely had to go there.
We have to talk about the world in here and how it compares to now and how it holds up. You know,
how does it hold up?
It holds
up. It's horrible how well it holds up. I know the looks you guys gave me when I said I thought it was a little alarmist. But in 2006, it seemed alarmist.
In 2006, I was a anarchist punk who just learned how to tuck in his shirt. That's sort of where I was.
2006, we're talking about the Bush years.
Yep.
We're talking about Iraq. We're talking about the Patriot Act.
Yep.
We're talking about Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And that really is the beginning of my disillusionment with conservative politics.
Sure.
We both grew up in the church.
Yep.
I don't know if we've specifically talked about this on the podcast, but it's probably been pieced together by people who listen to this enough. But
there's a subreddit following our political
Nate
history.
And Ryan, welcome to the resistance.
No,
and I was in 2006. I was kind of with you, where I was like, I am starting to see this.
Yeah.
But I wasn't quite there in 2006.
Well, in 2006, it still felt like it was talking about today. It felt like, okay, there are echoes of Abu Ghraib, what he's doing. It felt a little on the nose at times, and like, okay, we get it. We're doing it to terrorists, not immigrants. Don't worry.
Right. The fact that it's the Department of Homeland Security rounding up immigrants then was a little like, oh, this is a thing that could happen. Is what I was saying. Yeah. Like what I was saying, I was like, this is a believable future.
Right. Because
a terrifyingly believable future, but a believable future.
Yeah. And to be fair, immigration was an issue back then too. It's not like it was a big issue. But I'm kind of with you, Ryan. Like when I watched Children of Men the first time, I was kind of like, this looks like a leftist's exaggeration of Bush politics just taken way, way too far.
Right.
And I think really why we're chuckling a bit and what you're saying is that, no, he was right. He was not
exaggerating.
He was not even radical.
Not exaggerating at all.
And actually, because there's people now, because of course people have been reevaluating this movie and saying, wow, boy, he really hit it on the head. Yeah. And he gets asked this, and he gets almost mad if you call Children of Men prophetic. Because he's just like, no, if you think it's prophetic, that means you were ignorant at the time it came out.
Yep, absolutely.
Because all I was doing was taking things that were already being written about, already being discussed.
To their logical extension.
Yeah. That's definitely
shame
something
on us,
exactly.
Honestly, for being incredulous.
Because he was just asked this, 2017, I think, and his basic thing was like, the argument of Children of Men, and the argument still is to just not be complacent.
If I can get even darker, it's hard to think that we've passed a point of no return, though. That we were complacent for way too long already. I don't know, because I mean, this movie saying the logical extension of this complacency, the end of the world, is putting immigrants in cages.
We've done that. Done.
We're just checking off the boxes of the world of Children of Men.
So the first time I saw this, and I would say every time up to this time, my only complaint ever with this movie was the final 30 seconds, the tomorrow showing up. I'd always been like, this movie should end with Key and Dylan floating in a boat with a dead Theo. Cut to black, Children of Men, children laughter. And I was like, they don't need to give us this. That's a little pat on the head hope at the end. Mm-hmm. The human project actually shows up. Was my only flaw. But then realizing how much I needed that boat at the end of this was the worst feeling of all.
That you were at that level of despair?
I wasn't as viscerally shooken. I was the most emotionally shooken this watch.
Theo! The boat! The boat! It's okay. We're safe now. We're safe.
And the hope is still a mixed hope.
Sure.
Who
the
hell
totally
knows what that
is.
boat is or where it's going or if that's even going to make any difference whatsoever. That's not really answered for you. Well, so I do want to bring in one of our listeners, Andrew Gates, who wrote on Twitter to us and just said that he had watched Children of Men a few days ago and that he didn't expect to be so awed and uplifted by the end.
Yeah.
I remembered the ending, even from my first time watching it, but I don't feel like I embraced the ending as much as I did the second time watching it. Clung to it.
Right. Is there a magic human project boat coming to save us sometime soon, guys?
The little hope there is just that there are people out there who are working to make things better,
Somebody there's a documentary directed by Alfonso Cuaron on the special features. I don't know if it's available elsewhere, but it's called The Possibility of Hope. And he speaks to some real heavy hitter philosophers, historians, sociologists who are just, enumerating the ways that Children of Men is not prophetic. It is historical and current, including, it was made in 2006 when Alfonso Cuaron made the movie. It's broken up into segments, and one of the segments is called Walls. 12 years ago, right? And so, and then it's called the Possibility of Hope. The last part is about hope, and one of the people talks about how vital it is that they escape on a boat, and that the hope is on a boat because it is rootless.
What I like is that the solution is the boat. What is the definition of the boat? Is that it doesn't have roots. It's rootless. It floats around. That's the solution. We must really accept how we are rootless. This is, for me, the meaning of this wonderful metaphor, boat. Boat is the solution. Boat in the sense of you accept rootless, free-floating. You cannot rely on anything. You know, it's not a return to land. Renewal means you cut your roots.
Well, I have 9 grandchildren, so to be absolutely honest, I don't know what to tell them, except the truth, what will be happening, and the options as I see them. But it's really going to be up to them. The best thing I can do is to encourage them and get them to regard it with a sense that not only is it awful and terrible, but it's also, there's an adventure there and a chance of improvement. And that they should continue to have their children. They shouldn't say, oh, what's the point of giving birth to children now with a world like that ahead? The whole point.
So it's not just a deus ex machina of, oh, and here's the boat. So now you can't say it's a depressing movie. Yeah. But it really is a philosophical thesis saying, if we are to have any hope, we have to abandon everything that we have been basing our security on, our walls, our wars, our financial security, our isolationism. That is never going to be the solution anymore. The movie is saying, the book, I suppose, if the movie was sticking to the book, I haven't read it.
It barely sticks to the book from what I understand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, P.D. James is a Christian, and that's actually how I watched it the first time, was way more for the Christian allegory, like what was going on with that. And he's not adhering to one religious value, but I don't think it's coincidental that there is sort of this like Mary and Joseph in the stable sort of when
not at all.
Like,
that's very intentional.
Totally.
I don't know how far you can go with this, but when he finds out that she's pregnant, he says Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, I think
this happens a couple times.
Right,
yeah.
a few times when people see the baby and they say Jesus
or
Christ.
I think
or
one
Jesus.
time someone says, "My God."
Well, not only is Theo a Joseph character, he's also kind of a Moses character as well. Yeah. You know, and that the same way that Moses never gets to see the promised land. You know, you have that in the character of, and I even wonder if that's part of him wearing flip-flops is even just sort of a reference to him being sort of like sort of a biblical character, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a shoeless. I was actually going to tie this in with the last time I was here. Our hero is shoeless for a good chunk of it. Mm-hmm. He's barefoot, which both
of our Die Hard episode.
Oh, that was your tie-in?
That was that Die Hard tie.
Oh, man.
You have that vulnerability, but I think there also is definitely either a biblical like piety, penitence.
You mean on Theo's part?
On Theo's part.
Yes. He does want to be selfish. He does want to have given up, but he can't. Part of it is because he gets roped into it, but then the reason he carries on
he gets no
is that
solace
sort of,
in this movie at all. He doesn't even get to finish a cigarette.
But then you have that too. I mean, there are different religious groups who are responding to this differently. Mm-hmm. Some people who are just self-flagellating and beating themselves up for it. Just every mode of thinking, every way we have processed pain and punishment and hope in this movie fails until, like, you know, they're unmoored on this boat, sort of floating outside of all of it. Which, I mean, it could feel a little unsatisfying and like a little like somebody who's done a lot of LSD saying like, you just need to get like outside of it. But I think more than outside the system, outside of our typical responses to survival, to how we survive, which is always tightening our grip.
Mm-hmm. And what you notice in the movie is that when you get more into the individual level, that's where the love and the hope is, and where people can connect and understand each other. And it's when you have groups. Groups are where ideologies start to form. Mm-hmm. And once those ideologies start to form, people don't think rationally anymore.
Including nationalism.
Yeah, nationalism, but also, you know, even the more resistance movements as well.
Yes.
You know, those aren't off the hook in this movie.
Right.
I mean, it reminded me a lot of like the Antifa stuff that we see. You know, that they'll do whatever they need to get to their ultimate end.
They're all willing to reject someone's humanity.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Well, they all think they care. You know, everyone in the movie, the groups all think that it's just like today.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Well, so who?
I don't know. His cousin doesn't really care. He just doesn't.
But that's an individual. I'm talking more about the groups. But yeah, you're right. There's always going to be people like that, and they can be just as frustrating.
I'm really sorry, Nigel. I just don't know who else to ask.
Let's see what I can do. What?
You kill me. 100 years from now, there won't be one sad fuck to look at any of this. What keeps you going?
You know what it is, Theo? I just don't think about it.
And it's actually a coping mechanism for him, you know.
Well, isn't it sort of fascinating that he thinks he really thinks he's preserving something worth preserving. Nobody in the world is off the hook in this movie.
Right, no one.
Like the fact that there are these moments of art peppered throughout, you could say, oh, this movie is just really self-congratulating about the power of art. But his cousin focuses only on preserving art.
Mm-hmm.
And he is so wrong and out of touch. I don't know. It's remarkable how this movie can take aim at so many people and still have such a plausible uplift at the end.
And I think part of that comes from seeing a real transformation. Because Theo is, I mean, you're either going to be part of a movement or you're going to kind of become numb to it. That's kind of where we're at now.
Yeah.
With everything that's going on. You're either going to decide to be on a side and be very strongly on that side, or you're just going to tune out.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, the tuning out is sort of where he was, and also where the Michael Caine character is too. Where that's the solution. Take some drugs, just tune out, man, just get away from it all. But you see a transformation because it's forced upon him, really.
Right.
Where he can't help, once he's in it, to actually care about something and to actually try to further progress humanity.
I mean, it's when there's a sign that there's going to be more humanity.
Correct. Yeah.
Like that moment in the barn is when he...
Right. Which, and that's why I think infertility is such a despairing thing to hang this whole movie on. It really does make you think. Like, we really put all of our hope in future generations.
Yeah.
I put my hope in my kids. I hope they can make it better,
But I think that's... I mean, I'm not saying that you're a bad person, Nate, but that's how we got in this mess.
I know.
We don't think like, oh, they're the hope. It's like, no, we're the hope. It's us. We need to make the world for them. If we hand them, I mean, we were handed shit.
But what I'm saying is that the reason that you see this world devolving so much is because what's the point? There really is. Right. This movie gives you a plausible what's the point.
You're right.
Yes.
What is the point if there's no life ahead of you? It's not surprising that this world looks like this. What I think it's honestly convicting us of is, what's your excuse?
Yeah.
You've got future generations.
Right. Yeah.
You've got people that you can invest in. This world didn't have it. And as soon as it saw even the most remote chance of it happening, it changed the most cynical, hard-hearted person.
Yes, but...
Oh, but I know what you're going to say. The part that I noticed, I think, and I'm going to guess this is what you're going to say. What is really disheartening in this movie, and also I think very accurate to life, is when you see an entire group of people pause at the sign of life. And it takes like 10 seconds for the fire and they start
it's out of view. Second that baby's out of view.
Yeah. Which I think had to happen to just feel true.
Yeah.
It wouldn't feel authentic. And I think that it also speaks volumes.
As we're talking about this, I didn't necessarily think of it when I was watching it, but as we're talking about this, I'm reminded this 2006, The Road came out, the book. But, I mean, down to the fact that The Road is not concerned with how it started either. But just like the hope is in a child, like that there's somebody who's just like, I need to do something. Like there's something going on. And there's an uplift at the end of the road as well. There's certain things that parallel each other really well. It's just interesting to see people interact with the despair of those two works. And I don't know how we're supposed to react to it. Are we supposed to just philosophically feel like, wow, yeah, that's really something to think about? Are we supposed to just think that's way too depressing to think about? Like, obviously, I don't think that's the response, but I just don't know what to do with it. One thing somebody said in that documentary, and again, you guys should just watch it.
The featurette.
It's a featurette. It's called The Possibility of Hope.
Okay.
We should see if it's on YouTube or something.
I will link to it if it's there.
But somebody says that you don't have hope without despair. And so one of the things the movie does is shows you the depth of despair. And then makes you want that hope. Like just crave it as a viewer. And it would have been horrible if the movie didn't give it to us, I think, to just say, That's it. Just despair. But that's an interesting way to look at despair, to see it as the only avenue towards hope.
I mean, hope is a counter, is a reaction to despair. Like hope on its own, everything's going great, and I hope it's going to keep being great. You need, it's, a trite Bob Rossism is like, oh, you need to be sad to know when you're happy.
Right.
But if you want to feel like global and existential despair, not just individual, but like as a species, it has to happen through fiction.
Right.
For now. So to both empathetically and like hypothetically experience that reactive hope, we need to have the despair. And I will say that, but I talked about my emotional reaction to Children of Men. The Road is also, I think, the only times I've ever like literally shed tears at a book.
Yeah, I mean, it feels dark to say it, but they're tapping into something, not exploitatively. I don't think. What do we do? Are we even talking about the movie anymore?
Well, I think.
Do we? Okay, I got a question for you guys. It's called Children of Men. It inherited its title, but let's forget about that.
Okay.
Is it saying this world is the children of men, humanity? Mm-hmm. People created this. God is dead. God has forsaken us. We did this.
Mm-hmm. This is the bed we made.
Or is it saying this is the world that men made? The only good men in this movie are men that don't pick up a gun, are not objects of classic masculinity, or they're women.
Mm-hmm.
Is this saying that this is a world, or it could be saying both?
Yeah.
God has forsaken us, also both the classic patriarchal God and any God you may believe in.
Or we have forsaken God.
I think that this is an instance because it's based off the P.D. James novel, and I think Cuaron is okay with picking these parts up. This is a more direct biblical reference. I wrote it down. Ecclesiastes 9:3 is the heart of the sons of men is full of evil, and madness is in their heart while they live, and after that they go to the dead. And then you also have biblically, you have a lot of, Christ is the Son of Man, and it's children of men. So I just think it's using some terminology that's very familiar in Scripture. And when you look at that, what it's often doing, it's acknowledging the frailty and the fallenness and the sin of man, basically. There is evil in men. Mm. And then I think by kind of making it children of men, there's adding that little bit of innocence to it. And we are still children as well. And I think children also makes it more gender neutral, whereas in the biblical things, it's son.
Of man.
And I think it's a more gender neutral approach at getting at that. And the idea
it was also originally written in a non-gender neutral language.
Right. Sure, yeah.
Right.
It might be worth noting in the book, the child that is born is a boy, and in the movie, it's a girl.
Future's female.
So, hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know. So what's that getting at? I don't really know.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that the reference to children of men, sons of men, or the sons of men are inherently full of evil. But then Christ is the Son of Man.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be your salvation.
You've got the evil and the salvation, and I feel like that's offering the choice. Like you said, there's still some innocence. The future is not set for children yet, and as children of men, you can be children of men in the sense of carrying on the evil, or you can be children of men in the sense of the Son of Man and bring about the salvation.
Evan, what were you getting at when you were asking about children of men?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I was asking you.
That was an actual question?
It was a real question that I wasn't setting you up for something. I wanted it. What did I think both are?
Well, I looked it up.
True.
Man. No, it's pregnant with possibility. Mm. Mm-hmm. I did not write that ahead of time. That was off the top of my head.
I think you're about to be fired.
We didn't talk that much about Michael Caine's character. He gets probably one of the most straightforward philosophical conversations in there about the
faith and chance
and this sort of cosmic battle.
This is him?
Yeah, that's it. He'd have been about your age, magical child. Beautiful. Their faith put in praxis.
Praxis? What happened?
Chance. It was their sweet little dream. He had little hands, little legs, little feet, little lungs, a little 2008, along came the flu pandemic. And then by chance, he was gone.
Oh, Jesus.
You see, Theo's faith lost out to chance. So, why bother if life's going to make its own choices?
In his idea of this battle between faith and chance, my question is, so where does hope fall in that?
I think the sort of traditional view of faith and the traditional view of chance are both passive. I sit here and chance happens. Or I sit here and I have faith that things will happen.
Yeah, wow. I'm not sure if this is what's happening in the scene, but it's what I'm thinking of now. That the passive faith you're talking about is not the opposite of chance. It's more faith in chance.
Yeah.
Whereas faith on the hope side of it is that more active faith that what I do has an effect. What I do can matter. So I'm going to choose the good rather than the bad. And it feels like that gets awakened in Theo again. There's so much to talk about. I feel like I need to watch this movie and just say like, okay, this time I'm going to pay attention to what song is playing. And then I'm going to like do research on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with the song choice as well.
Enough to bump it up for you?
I think so. So let me tell you, these are things I just still am unsure about. And part of my rating was also just like personally ranking this as far as, is this my kind of movie?
Sure.
You know, I'm leaning towards this being a 5-star movie, but I can tell you why it kind of was just at a 4. It feels like a movie that kind of demands action. But I don't know what that action's supposed to be.
There's obviously no easy answer to that, or any answer. I think what does come through is a warning against anything that reduces the humanity of other people.
Yeah.
That like reduces your own humanity, like Theo, who has lived just to avoid hurt, or reduces the humanity of immigrants, or reduces the humanity of the powerful, or reduces the humanity of Republicans or Democrats or anything, like anything that you use to reduce another person's humanity to a label or to an otherness, and that ignores your humanity, that is essentially a form of infertility. And I don't know what you do about that. Like it's a deeply personal thing. I suppose at an action level, at a bigger level, then you would seek to align yourself with things that you see recognizing the humanity of other people. That it doesn't become self-serving or party-serving or movement-serving, but that it is like, are we still affirming the humanity of everybody? And I'm not good at it, really. I vilify people constantly in my head. To me, the movie is just, it's scary it's a warning about the extension of those thoughts. It's not helpful to watch the movie and distance yourself from it and say, well, I'm not like that, or I told you so, or I knew it was going to happen this way. But just like we were talking about with the title, like we're all children and we all did this. We all have a hand in this. We all have a choice in this. And it doesn't spell it out, but I don't think that in this movie's case that's a cop-out.
I must not be articulating it very well, because I was satisfied with the ending of the movie. I was satisfied with what happens with Theo's character and the transformation.
Do you feel like it's
makes.
too wishy-washy, that it doesn't take a side?
It doesn't need to take a side, but I also think it's being a little vague about how you should live.
Yeah, I think you live a life that values life, that actively values life. Most of us aren't going to be a Theo or a Julian or a Luke who are there from sort of the start of hope and know about it. But we're the people on the street that are like, holy crap, there's a baby.
Let me put it this way. You said yourself, Ryan, that in this documentary you watched, they were talking about the real changes have to happen from something that's like a boat, that doesn't even have any sort of relation to the systems that we're in.
I think affirming the humanity of all people is very far outside the system.
I would agree. So I think that's where Cuarón is settling, is that's the answer. But it's very hard to know how to put that into practice.
I think he's saying that in this world. I mean, his world is still a world turned up to 11. And I do think that we can take those values and find hopeful potential examples of them that at least push us closer to life on this land right now. When we can't, then we should go to sea. And maybe we're closer to that point than we have been in recent history.
Yeah.
I think that part of what is hard is that because this has only just gotten more and more true to life.
Right.
Not that we want the movie to spell it out for us, because I don't want that of any movie, really. I mean, that's when it becomes heavy-handed. But it's almost like we're desperate. Like, we want to know what we can do to correct the ship. And, and the sad thing is I don't think this movie is going to really tell you.
No.
And we just live in a period where it's I kind of feel like it's even more like we need to know. We need to know what we should do to change this.
Come on, Cuarón, give us the Twitter thread, and we... Yeah.
Well, and that goes with like a lot of what I'm reading and watching. Like I feel like I'm reading and watching a lot of stuff that says these are the problems, and then it's just kind of like you kind of just want to know, what can I do? Just tell me something I can do, And maybe it's just that I almost have a knee jerk because it does sound a little kind of hoity-toity, wishy-washy is to love your fellow man and to put that before.
But
all
it's
else,
also don't ignore the evil around you.
And that's what I think. I think that's the point in time we're at now. Just being complacent. And in America, we've been very comfortable economically, and we continue to be, but things are getting worse and worse and worse.
By we, you mean white
men,
right?
Yeah. And I think this is a time of listening, and we are late. Mm-hmm. We are very late to this. That's part of the urgency, is that it is very clear that we are too late. But I think we are currently in a spot where we need to understand the reality of the situation at a very, very deep level. That's not just examining ourselves. It's a big part of it, and understanding where we've been complacent, what we've been ignoring, how we've been benefiting at the expense of other people. But it's also, and I'm not saying that this is happening in the movie to all that much, but I'm just saying in real life, it's listening to the marginalized people and their stories and understanding what that is.
And beyond that, not just moving them from the margins. Like that's us moving aside and then actively taking place.
Well,
taking steps to
it's expanding, not just moving them. It's just expanding.
Yeah,
to
expanding.
And the movie deals with, in their instance, the devastating thing is infertility. Mm-hmm. I think that you could easily make the case that if we're not careful, when we get to 2027, we're looking at devastating thing being climate change. Those things are already impacting the marginalized people in this world.
Right.
And we're not paying attention.
Right.
It's scary feeling like you're too late. It's infuriating realizing you're too late and then hearing people who still don't want to listen to it.
Right.
And they're the people in power.
Right.
And you don't know what to do with that.
Right.
So you watch a movie like Children of Men. It does kind of feel like Cuarón saying, don't give up hope, guys. But then you're kind of left with, I don't know if I believe in that boat coming. Yeah. I don't know if I'm there with you. It's hard to be kind of left with a nebulous idea of a boat when we're living so closer to where this is ending up. That human project in that movie, it better have a real great idea.
Mm-hmm. It would have been real nice and probably would have made a more popular movie if this fighting stopped for good with the presence of the baby.
Yeah.
Right.
But the movie's too realistic. It's too aware of humanity and history. And it is a choice that you make. There is no magic moment where hope enters your world and you're good. You have to follow it, and you have to foster it, and you have to go after it, and you have to sometimes sacrifice, and you have to make hard choices and leave people behind. And that's just part of it. Hope is not magical, I think, is part of what this movie is saying.
Yeah.
That you've still got to row your boat out to the boat.
Right. Hope is an active verb.
It's not going to come get you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm working this stuff out.
I know. Hey,
as I'm watching it.
I am, yeah.
How many movies give you that much to work with, though?
Well, I didn't know where this conversation was going to go. I didn't know how we could talk about this movie and do it any sort of justice, because there are a lot of people who write about this movie with way more knowledge of the elements that are being portrayed. But for me personally, if people listening don't feel the same way, I'm sorry. I feel like this is a really great way to process this movie because there is an immediacy to this movie today that in 2006, I don't think we would have cared what the movie was trying to tell us to do. But we need to know, what can we do?
Yeah.
I don't know yet. Still.
All right. So I'll ask then. I'll ask then. How are we doing? I am gonna put this at.
How are we doing?
You
want us to wrap
wise.
up? Oh, friendship wise. I think we're best buds in like the foxhole right now.
I just stormed into your bus shelter and people are shooting at him and you're like, whoa, dude.
I will go.
This is my shanty.
I am going to go 5 stars, mostly because, as you said, Evan, if any movie can make you talk at this level and actually still feel honest, where your talking is not necessarily pointing out these huge flaws in the movie, more just kind of wrestling with what the movie's given you. And then this is a very peculiar movie in that sense because it just seems to be so much going in the direction that we're going.
Right.
Yeah, you got everything else right.
Yeah.
Why can't you give me this one or two other things too?
You seem to know so much.
But it's an extraordinary movie, in a lot of ways.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess we're best buds. I think.
Yeah.
Evan and I are.
But yeah,
I think
I gave this movie 5 stars before it was cool.
It's true. I feel like, I don't know. Would you not say we are best buds?
I would if you guys think so, but I feel like I was kind of the naysayer, and
no.
You were wrestling with it in the
you were here for you.
You were actively searching for faith in this movie.
Sure. I'm glad. Okay. I mean, I feel like we're best buds.
Okay.
I don't want to. There's no
too.
reason for tension on this movie because
I don't think that I didn't.
It's the
feel
most
tense
complicated best buds.
Yeah.
I didn't feel tense. Well, this is where the rubber meets the road in friendship. We've been doing this for 70 episodes now. I think we got a real good idea of friendship, and this is one of those tough times, but this is one of those strengthening times.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Well, okay. Best buds. It is. Children of Men.
Yeah.
3 thumbs up.
I mean, I've got 2, so my math's
not
great. So
6 thumbs up.
6
I don't know how
up.
it works.
Where's that extra thumb? 7 thumbs up. We got 7 thumbs in here.
Heads up, 7 up. All right, let's talk about our next episode.
Well, next time we're doing a movie that was suggested by a listener. This is from Eric from Massachusetts, and he suggested that we watch Good Will Hunting. And so, based solely on that, I don't know if there's any tie-in. Maybe we could make something.
We could probably make something up.
Happen.
I don't think it's like an anniversary or anything like that.
No, I don't think so.
I haven't seen this movie since it came out.
Oh man, I've seen it once. That's it. I don't think about it very often. I know for some people it's been a real mainstay, or at least they feel like they've watched it a lot. So we might have a lot of things from listeners sharing their thoughts.
It's weird. I feel like it's one of those movies that it sticks around for some reason. Like I hear about it every once in a while, and I think it'd be interesting to explore why.
I feel like if you say Good Will Hunting in a room of like more than 3 people, somebody's going to be like, "Oh, I love that movie."
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you without giving away too much of episode 71. You say the name Good Will Hunting in a room of people, and somebody says, "Oh, I love that movie." I'm not going to be the person that says that.
Yeah, I don't think I would be either. Because it would be more of a I don't know.
Yeah,
and it would be more of a I saw that when I was in high school.
Yep.
And I never really felt like I needed to see it again.
Right.
But there's been a part of me that's been curious. Good Will Hunting is available for now on Netflix and Hoopla. Hoopla being the public library's streaming platform. I know so little about this movie. His name's Will Hunting, right?
It's Goodwill, and it's about his first. Well, it's not his first trip hunting.
Watch it with us. Find out what happens to that Will Hunting.
Yeah,
it's Goodwill.
That
doesn't sound right.
It is. So find out with us about what it's like to watch this movie again. About Good's first hunting trip.
Goodwill Gone Hunting.
Yeah, that was the working title.
You throw this stuff to a committee, and they eventually figure it out.
Mm-hmm. The best movies are
committee driven.
Committee driven.
changed endings, multiple endings. You screen the movie, you figure out which one the audiences love the most. Yep. That's what you go with.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really
but
about
I
the
still
preparation,
find,
the packing.
committee or not, I still find the title a little confusing because being aware of like the goodwill.
Yeah.
It could. I think it's totally acceptable to read it as goodwill hunting, like thrift store shopping,
bargain shopping, right? Like hunting for bargains.
Yeah,
yeah.
Which I did in high school. That's what I did. I said, "Hey guys, before we go see Goodwill Hunting, let's go Goodwill Hunting."
Goodwill Hunting.
And I thought the movie was tied to that somehow.
Right.
Turns out it was about Goodwill gone hunting.
Right. I mean, it just shows how tough it is to title a movie. That even a committee, like a foolproof body, like a committee,
didn't even think about the thrift store shopping aspect of this.
Right. Well, you get to the Hollywood elites, and they're not even.
They're not thrift store shopping. That's the problem. That's your committee was not representative of the people seeing the movie.
Right.
But they could have test screened it in small town America.
I know they could have.
And they would have immediately heard, great movie, love the hunting bits, but just what
looking for a lot of thrift stores.
Yeah.
And didn't pay off.
I think about it. If you made a movie called Sam's Club,
right?
Are you going to think it's about a club owned by Sam? Or are you going to think it's a reference to Sam's Club?
Oh, I actually thought it was about Sam Adams' sandwich.
Well, see, there you go. This is what you need committees for.
Oh, so you're not talking about an adaptation of the book Sam's Club, which was the historical fiction about Sam Adams'
Club
sandwich.
No, I didn't know that even existed, but I'll take your word for it.
Really?
Sam's Club?
You didn't read that in high school?
No.
That was like freshman high school. We read Sam's Club.
Was there a movie adaptation?
No, I thought you were talking about making a movie of Sam's Club.
Okay, well, I didn't even know the book existed.
You were talking about something different, some sort of store?
Yeah. Huh. You're not, I guess you're not
Honestly,
middle America.
I mean, if you haven't read Sam's Club, it's really great.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't read it, so I don't know why I just agreed to that.
Yeah, you haven't even heard of it, apparently.
I haven't heard of it, but the way you've talked about it just now, I'm sold. It has to be great.
I haven't really said anything, but I am tearing up.
Okay, so if you want to watch Goodwill Hunting, Goodwill Gone Hunting, Will Hunting, Going Hunting, and It Is Gone, then give us some feedback. We have 2 social media options out there.
Yeah.
We've got Facebook, Can We Still Be Friends podcast is our business page. I think it's a business page. You can also go to Twitter, CWSBF there. You can also talk about Children of Men, any of our other past episodes.
Yeah.
February, Valentine's Day.
Yeah. If you have any suggestions,
we'll take more.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop after Goodwill Gone Hunting.
Right. And then we've got a website, canwestillbefriends.net, and a closely related email, feedback@canwestillbefriends.net. And we also have a voicemail number that you can call and leave us a voice message.
You know that number?
I don't.
Our listeners don't know this because I always cut it. But we never remember the actual phone number. 70 episodes in.
70 episodes in, that's right.
I have to look it up every single time.
That's fine.
847-306-9532. I just looked it up. That's what it is. 847-306-9532. Give us a call and leave a message. We do know how to check the messages.
We do. I know that, yeah. Because I get an email.
Right. It's easy enough. You don't have to do any work to listen to them.
If it was anywhere else, I would not know anything
or where to look.
That might actually be airing dirty laundry if we talk about how long it takes me to respond to email. Nate sometimes has to email me 2 or 3 times before I respond. I'm a good friend.
You get used to it. You figure, maybe he's dead. Oh, no, he's not dead.
I would have heard something.
He's not dead. Just doesn't respond to electronic mail.
I will email you when I die.
Oh, thanks.
So you will know.
Thanks. I'll look forward to that email. No, we're not really.
I will respond to your email over my dead body. 70 episodes, 5 years this week. Am I right?
That's right. Yeah.
This week, 5 years.
But yeah, I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
It's good. I can't, I honestly can say I didn't know if it would go this long. I don't think I had any expectations of it. And that means that if you've been listening to us since the beginning, I don't know how many of you out there are, but you've been with us for 5 years, which is kind of a big thank you.
Yeah,
to that.
absolutely.
That's something. That's loyalty.
That. Yeah,
and we demand loyalty.
We do.
But yeah, we'll catch you in March, and thanks for listening.
Yeah.